we're going to learn a bit of a different style of learning that we do usually when we learn. So, okay. So usually most of the shiurim are about Chassidut, the service of Hashem, or the stories of the Torah. Rabbi Kowalski, that he teaches, is about the Torah. He taught us about the Kings, the Book of Kings. This year is going to be slightly different, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. It's connected to the revealed part of the Torah, the NACHLAOT. So this is a shir about Halacha, about the laws, and not only laws, but about trying to figure out the way that the Gemara comes to certain conclusions, certain decisions, etc. So, a bit of a different style, but very interesting. Let's see. I want to share with you a law that the Halacha says, and I'm reading out of the words of the Rambam, the Maimonides. The Maimonides says like this: Sanhedrin shepaschu kulam bedine nefashos. The Sanhedrin, they used to sit not far from us, from where we are. They had a special section in the Holy Temple, and that's the Sanhedrin Gedolah. Sanhedrin is like an ordinary Beis Din, but every regular Beis Din is built out of how many dayanim, how many rabbis?
3.
Usually 3. And there is a higher Beis Din that is built out of 23 rabbis. That's like a regional Beis Din, we could call it. And then there is the Sanhedrin, which is the highest Beis Din, and they are 71 rabbis. Why is it odd numbers? 3, 7, 71. Why not 72, 70? Perfect. So there's an argument. We go by the majority. Go by the majority. It always has to. Okay. So the order was that if, let's say, a person had a case against his friend, by the way, and until this very day, we still have an obligation to first of all go to the Sanhedrin, which means to the Beis Din. So today we also have a Beis Din. We've got a Beis Din here in Yerushalayim. There are a few Batei Dinim. There are a few Batei Dinim in Kanfei Sharim, and in Mea Sharim they have a Beis Din. Yes.
Is there one there, or there was
one? I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to, but it could possibly be that there's still one over there. It's interesting. So even today, if a person has a certain claim, he has to first of all go to Beis Din. And if Beis Din summons that person and he does not come, in that case, you are allowed to go to a civil court. But initially, we have to go by our laws. And there was a person that actually came, he visited here from Australia. He came to do his doctorate. You know who I'm talking about? He gave a shir on Shavuos. That was your first Shavuos in Yerushalayim. Perfect. So he came here and he gave a whole lecture about the similarities and differences between civil courts and the Beis Din. First of all, about the approach behind it all, that's like more theory, and then technicalities as well, the way the system works. So he came here to the Hebrew U to study his doctorate. He's a teacher in Australia, and he's part of the Beis Din there in some way. So the way it was is that if you have an answer, those 3 rabbis can give you an answer. Okay. If the 3 rabbis say, listen, it's a bit too complicated for me, so you go to the 23 rabbis, 23 dayanim. And they should already be able to give the answer. But if they cannot give the answer, so they go to the 71 in Yerushalayim. And that is the final, based in, they have to come up with a solution, they have to come up with an answer. Now, we have Dinei Mamonot, and we have Dinei Nefashot. What is Dinei Mamonot? Which, that's about money. If two people are not sure, do you owe me, you don't owe me, that is Dinei Mamonot. 3 rabbis can also do. When it comes to Dinei Nefashot, which means when we're talking about an accusation that a person might face the death penalty, you have to go in front of the 71. 3 rabbis is not enough. Yerushalayim, the Sanhedrin, they would take care of it. And the Mishnah says in Masechet Makot that we might think, when you read the Torah, you see, well, this is a death penalty, that's a death penalty, that's a death penalty. Well, it seems like that the Jewish religion is a very extreme religion and a very deadly religion, Chas v'shalom to say so. So the Mishnah says that a Beis Din that used to kill once in 7 years, and there's a rabbi that says once in 70 years, is considered a Beis Din katlani. What is katlani? Violence, or, sorry, bloodthirsty. Yeah. Yeah. So, and why is that? It was because it wasn't so simple to cause a person to face the death penalty at the end. You had to have witnesses. You had to make sure that the witnesses know to the exact point, okay, what exactly was he wearing? Where was it? What time did it happen? What day? And they used to also question the aid. It wasn't just that you could come and say, oh, I saw it. No, what does that mean? When was it? How do you know him? Are you related? You're not related. Not only that, but we will see soon examples. And this is another case. Okay, so let's say there's a person chasing after another person. And he chases him into a room or into a house. And what happens is that he leaves the house with his sword, and the sword is full of blood, and you go in, you enter the house, and you see the person is dead. What happened in the house? No one saw. The 2 witnesses, they ran all the way, but they didn't make it on time to see what actually happened in the house. What would you say happened in the house?
We don't know. Not possible to judge.
You go to the judgment side, but what happened there?
The sword killed someone.
The sword killed someone. You're becoming a leftist, Hanoch. I'm getting worried. Probably what happened is that, and any other judge there's a good chance that they would say that the evidence suggests that he murdered him. According to the Torah, that is not considered an edus. There is no testimony that actually happened. Now, a person might think, so is this a careless religion? If you're missing out like the exact moment that they saw, and that's an example. There are other cases that also have the same conditions where you cannot exactly testify 100%. So the Rambam tells us that don't worry about that. The rabbis, and that's a big part of the role of the Sanhedrin. We read about it in the previous parashah. It's interesting that they had, their role was to go and to supervise, to make sure that the Jews in the cities and the villages are following the ways of Hashem. And they had other sanctions they could do. For example, nidui. Nidui is that they tell a person, listen, you cannot come to shul, you cannot join shul, we don't count you as part of the minyan, you cannot get an aliyah, etc., etc. Sanctions. That was one way. And another way that the Rambam speaks about is a kippah, which we could compare it to jail, but it's a jail for like 3 days. In Torah, we don't see the idea of prison as a punishment. There's no such a punishment. If a person doesn't keep Shabbos, you don't tell him, well, you've got to go to prison for 10 years. If a person, whatever, even if he steals, if he destroys something that does not belong to him, he does not go to jail. Why not? The Rebbe spoke, sorry?
It's costly to feed him.
It's cost to feed him. The Rebbe once spoke about this in Fabregan. And if I'm not mistaken, there was a prisoner. I'm not sure if he was out just for a break or he was just let out of prison.
In the desert.
I could look this up.
He was a Jew in the desert, a Mekalen. He was kept in prison
Until
until it was a
they find, right. So that is a prison that is okay. But prison as punishment, that is not accepted by Judaism. And why? So the Rabbi explained. The Rabbi said that it serves no point. You're taking a person that he could do things and you're just locking him in a certain space, a certain area. So
Well, I'm sorry, it's punishment. Right? I mean, you put him in to punish him.
you're punishing him, but it's for
He did.
what he did, but it's got to be a useful punishment as well. That's the point. So if you just put a person in prison, it's like his koichos. Hashem put him here in the world. We could agree on that, right? Everything is by the will of Hashem. Hashem places him here. And he places him with temperament. He places him with the qualities that he has, with the good and bad. He did something wrong. So you're just locking the person. You're not letting him not fix it. And you're not letting him live a normal life or try and live what his mission is.
What about the, what's the word, deferment? That is, so other people wouldn't do it.
So find another method to punish that person that is threatening enough.
To protect society, so other people don't.
So you're saying another thing.
Something and get away with it.
prevent.
So
Prevent.
Not revenge, it's,
Prevent.
no, there's another word.
yeah. So again, there are many other punishments, and soon we'll see the punishment that the Rambam says again for serious crimes. I'm not just again when it comes to a person stealing. So what you do is you force him to pay, plus he pays a fine, and if he cannot afford that, so he's sold as a slave.
Nowadays,
Being sold is 100% nachon. And by the way, there's a lot of research that is being done about prisons that they're not good for society. It's not. So you punish the person, you get back at him, and people are afraid to do crimes because of that. But if a person is sold as a slave, so in a certain way, I'm not saying that that's maybe the best way to do it. What the Torah says is the best way, but it's got to fit all the conditions. So maybe the conditions don't apply to that, and they don't apply to that. There's no Sanhedrin, so we cannot do it. But in theory, you're taking a person that he could work. Why to put him in prison? Sell him as a slave. Slave is not that bad. By the way, when they speak about the slave, it says that when a person buys a slave, kana adon la'atzmo. He buys a master. He's not buying a slave. You've got to make sure you treat him well. You've got to make sure you treat his family well. He's only there until 6 years max. You've got to give him a gift after those 6 years so he can restart his life. That is Jewish prison.
I thought now.
So what should we do by Jewish law to a person like that?
I was just thinking of that. It's amazing you mentioned that because in today's times, what are you gonna do? Sell Madoff to somebody as a slave for 6 years? But he set the Jews back 50 years.
600 years.
600 years. Okay, you're being kind and saying 50.
No longer with us. Some of the prisons back in the 40s and 50s, they had chain gangs, which was the idea of forced labor to build roads and things like that.
Yeah. So definitely it's not like the ultimate solution. We cannot bring full justice to the world, and only Hashem knows the full picture. Hadassah invested a lot of money, and they're talking about hospitals. So I would give a Jewish answer, and I would ask back, well, what did we do by putting him in prison?
You prevent others to do what he did.
Slavery is not that bad. It's not much better. And
You cannot apply it.
You're right that we cannot apply it, but I'm saying going back.
So if I was a Jew and I wanted to call in the Torah, what can the Torah?
So if you call it, this is a different question about balancing civil court and Bet Din. Bet Din cannot do it, but Bet Din could say, you know what, you can summon him to civil court.
Nowadays, President will say, withdraw your passport and withdraw your driving license.
Only in certain cases, yes.
Okay.
For example, when it comes to divorce, when people don't want to give the divorce, so there are sanctions. So I was just bringing this whole topic, which we could discuss it separately. It's a whole topic for itself, about justice and about, sorry?
Neither a friend from us.
He would know exactly what, yeah, NACHLAOT.
So what would a Beit Din have done about Bernie Madoff?
About Bernie Madoff in the times of Beis HaMikdash, for example. So in our days,
Same crime, but in the time of the Beis Din.
yeah, in our days, that Beis Din, he probably would be sold. And again, when it comes to the hekef of the crime that he did, so they would be able to see who else knew about it and who else. And again, another example is, and this is where the Rambam brings the interesting punishment. And it's original. I've got to look back at the sources of the Rambam, but the Rambam says there are certain cases where we put a person in a kippah. A kippah is a sealed room, and the person pretty much dies from starvation. So you cannot kill him, because again, there's no adim, there's something else that is missing out. But if you see someone that he's just totally mushkat, so you're not killing him, but you're causing his death. I'll give you another example. He's the word crooked, or he's it's like an extreme person that you see that they try to punish him, they try to warn him, nothing's working. So to keep society safe, putting him in prison doesn't serve, in the long term, it doesn't serve the purpose. And that's the...
So you want to put Bernie Sanders
Sanders?
in the Kupa for 1 week?
He's... So, but we've got to look into the details of that kippah, what exactly it means. If he wants to go out, can we give him like a second chance? Is it like just to show him that this is like the final chance that we're giving you? But what I'm saying is, and why I brought this up, is that it's not that, first of all, Judaism is a violent religion, but it's also, we're not careless. It's not like we say, okay, we are open, and because it doesn't fit to the exact thing. So there are other ways to deal with everything. At the end, there's also the common, the rabbis there, but that was the Sanhedrin. But they had to go with the Eglah Rufa, and this is very relevant also to our days. And the Eglah Rufa is a story about people that found a dead body outside in the field, and no one knew exactly who killed it. So who goes, and the rabbis, the Sanhedrin go, and they say, Yadeinu lo shafku et adam hazeh. Our hands did not spill this blood. Would I think that the rabbi went and murdered someone? Why would the rabbi do so? He's responsible. You are the leader, you are responsible. So without...
Well, that's not a popular concept.
I know. And that's why we're still in exile. Okay, I'm not going into the political details and what are the other options and what's this and what's that. Yes, we're, but it's not only common sense. This is, and again, there are always excuses and always other reasons and other things. So I'm not bringing it to say a political statement here, but just to say that the Torah itself says that the Sanhedrin, they have to be connected to the people. That's what it means. And if you don't know what happened, and not only you don't know what happened, but if it could be that a Yid in your city killed someone else, you've got to say there's something that needs to be checked here. They did not fire the Sanhedrin. Again, not saying any political statement, but I'm saying that it's not complicated, but definitely it is complicated, but definitely the basic thing is that, yes, the responsibility lies on the shoulders of the leader. No question.
So why does it lie on the shoulders of the leaders? Just because they're the leaders?
Because part of their role as leaders is to educate and supervise their people. So there are other leaders that a person could say that that's not their job. They're not, again, a rabbi has a responsibility to engage with his and to educate them. And that is the story of Demai. What is Demai? We learn about that. We also learned it in the Rambam. And the story of Demai is that at a certain point, the rabbis went around the villages and around the cities, and they noticed that everyone gives what's called Truma Gedola. Truma Gedola is the donation that you give 1/50 of whatever grows in the tree, in the field, etc. But they saw that the Meiser to the Leviim, they don't give. And that the Trumas Meiser, the Leviim don't give. Why? Because people tell themselves, you know what? I gave one donation, it's enough. Why do I need to give another donation? So the rabbis decided that we are extra cautious when it comes to fruit that are unsupervised. So you've got to give your own truma and ma'aser. And by the way, people do it today. You go to the shuk, some have good sharing, but if you want to be double cautious about it, so you give your own ma'aser. You can do it. You can make a bracha. You make the yehirotza, and it's very nice to do. You have a lemon tree in your yard. It's kedai also to know those halachot, and that's what we spoke about in the Rambam. So,
Sanhedrin going back.
and that is that I want to just conclude, and what you just reminded me is that's the Sanhedrin going and looking all around and finding that Am Yisrael, and they came with a strong HaChlata. Yes, or no?
Well, in the capital punishment case.
Yes.
71, it just have to be whatever, 36 to 35.
Perfect question. This is our Rambam. Sanhedrin shepaschu kulam bedine nefashos tchila. Ve'amru kulam. Sanhedrin have a court case. This is din nefashos. This is about the death penalty, capital punishment. And if they all say that he is chayav, if they all say he is guilty, harei ze patur.
What is that?
He is dismissed from the punishment. If all the rabbis agree, all the 71 rabbis say he is guilty, what would be the decision?
Collusion.
You do not punish him at all.
Why?
Why? Perfect.
Unanimous decision.
It's a unanimous decision. You can't get a better decision than that. Everyone agrees. Okay? And what is the right way that we can actually carry out such a punishment? Ad sheyiyusha miktzat mezakin sheyahapfu beizchuto v'yirabu amchayvim v'achar kach yahari. Until there are at least a few that have a good word to say about the person. So they say, you know what, patur. But the majority, which means at least, to answer Avadia's question, at least 36 that say that he's chayav, and then you say the majority says that he's chayav, so he is chayav. So again, exactly if it's 36, it could be there's got to be 2 more, but we speak about generally speaking the majority.
So, Rabbi,
But the biggest question, yes, Hannah?
how would that apply to Hamas, the crimes that they?
That we need the Sanhedrin back. We need the Sanhedrin, that's that.
And the Sanhedrin says unanimously guilty.
Okay. Wait for Parshas Vayishlach. We'll speak about it in the Parsha Vayishlach. So the question is, like Elliot, right? Elliot asked, why? This is a unanimous decision. Everyone says that he's chayav. That should be the din. So this is based on the Gemara. The Rambam is not making it up. And the Gemara says like this. I'll explain 2 ways to understand this Gemara. You know the expression, sleep on it. Sleep on it one night. If a person has to make a decision and he's not sure, so they say, you know what, maybe now you are under certain pressure, maybe you are this, that. Sleep on it a night. Tomorrow you'll have a clear mind and you will be able to make a decision. That's what applies not only in our life, but also the Beis Din. They had to sleep on it a night. Which means they never made a final decision on the same day. And in this case, they cannot sleep on it at night because they already made up their minds. It's like the story was so simple, was so easy. They figured it all out. There are 20 witnesses, or maybe more than 20 witnesses, and everything is perfect. So they cannot sleep on it at night. They already made their decision. So we are missing a part, the same way as there has to be two agents, the same way as they have to see everything. So even though the evidence is clear, but in Judaism, we cannot punish a person based on evidence. It has to fit to the laws and to the system of judging. And one of the conditions is sleep on it at night. And here, it's like a person says, I don't need to sleep over it at night. I know already. I know everything.
But the judges on the Sanhedrin knew that. So why didn't they just say, let's sleep on it tonight,
Okay.
and then come back the next day
Okay.
and render a unanimous decision?
Perfect. Nachon. And because they know it, and again, if they knew it and they would say, they have to be realistic. If there is what to sleep over at a night, they would say, I have what to rethink it. But here, because they know exactly what you're saying, that's part of the obligations, and I say, well, wait a second. It's 10 a.m. We started it on time. You don't start it at 6. By the way, Sanhedrin is not allowed to sit during the nighttime. They have to sit during the day. So they're starting the din, and they say, well, listen, there's nothing to do. Soon we will see an example of a case, and we can bring the example already now. What happens if Chas v'Shalom, in front of the Beis Din themselves, murder happens? So the Sanhedrin are sitting there, and they see one person going and Chas v'Shalom killing someone else.
They have to be excused
Why?
because it's like they saw it's like conflict, and you're part of you're like a witness.
Yefemo, it's a shy. It's a very good thing that you're mentioning. That is another Gemara that the Gemara says, Ein eid na'asa dayan. A witness cannot become a judge because you're not objective. So it's not the exact same answer, but it's similar to halanat hadin. I cannot sleep on it. I saw it in front of my eyes. So we're not talking about a case where they actually saw it and they are witnesses, because then they have to be dismissed totally. But we're talking about a case that the evidence is very clear, the case is very simple, and they have a decision. So they're missing one part of the metoda, as they say, the method of pasking a din in this case. And that is that sleeping over a night, that's one condition. They cannot check that condition. They dismiss themselves from the case. And here's another answer, and this is also a very, very interesting answer. Going back to what we started speaking about in Masechet Makot, that Judaism is not a strict, violent religion. And this is hinted in what the Torah itself says, V'shaftu ha'edah v'hitzilu ha'edah. They have to judge the edah, which means, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is when Moshe Rabbeinu appoints Sanhedrin to help him judge. And, or maybe this is only later, I don't remember, but this is from the Torah, that they have to judge Klal Yisrael, and they have to save them. V'hitzilu ha'edah, v'shaftu ha'edah v'hitzilu ha'edah. Which means they have to have at least the initiative to try and save the edah. And if everyone starts off saying chayav, it's not the right approach. And if we take a look carefully in the words of the Rambam says, Sanhedrin shepatchu kulam. Their opening statement was chayav. Why does it shepatchu kulam? That they decided. And by the way, there are those rabbis that say that it's not about the opening statement, it's not about patchu, that's their first words that they said, but it's about their decision after the first day. That's when we want to see, okay, is it a unanimous decision or not? But what the Rambam says is, shepatchu kulam, their opening statement was chayav, chayav, chayav. It's not the right attitude when you go and you are judging someone, especially when it comes to the death penalty, capital punishment. So they have to have the ability to be v'shaftu ha'edah, v'hitzilu ha'edah, to be Eda Matzeles. And here we are going back to what Shai said, and that's about the judges, that in front of their eyes a story of murder happens. They cannot be judges in this case. So Shai gave a reason, because Ein Eid Na'asa Dayan, a witness cannot become a judge. He's not objective, he's subjective. But not only that, if you see something in front of you, could be there's a reason. And the rabbis, the Sanhedrin, they had to figure out, to melamed zchus on this person, why did he do it? But if you sit in front of your eyes, you're never going to melamed zchut. You're not going to come with this initiative to try and save the murderer, despite how bad it sounds. But that's it. You have to have, part of the responsibility is to be merciful, to judge and to try and see how to save, at least to try. So these are the two other approaches. Yeah.
So what about this business with the sanctuary cities? Is the perpetrator accepting, he's declaring his guilt? They talk about accidental death.
Yes, accidental death, yeah.
So, but he's saying, yes, I did it.
Yeah.
And I have to go into to save myself, I have to go into the sanctuary city.
Right. There's no witness. And the Goel Adam is allowed to go and kill that person. Okay. Again, that's another example where, right, there's no witness, but there's enough of a reason. It was by mistake. Everyone saw it. Maybe that's why it wasn't on purpose. The Goel Adam can still go and take revenge.
Because there hasn't been a court date yet. He's only going to the sanctuary city because he's waiting for the court date. In the meantime, the relatives, close relatives, can take revenge on him and kill him.
So that's a good point.
You know, so halacha is you can save yourself by going there and not having and waiting for your court date.
And waiting for the court case. That is also main.
What's that?
Right.
Until the change of the high priest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fine. So there's also a whole explanation to that. And what, by the way, one of the reasons is because the high priest, he should be davening that cases like this shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So he has also a certain responsibility. The mother of the Kohen Gadol, that's what the Gemara says, if I was thinking it's the Gemara of the Mishnah, the mother of the high priest used to go and cook for those people there because she didn't want them to daven for the death of the... So enjoy. And by the way, NACHLAOT, those sanctuary cities, they were not prisons. You could live a full life, but just in certain boundaries. Okay. So
what type of society is it, though, that you have to create this whole social mechanism for accidental deaths?
Because accidents happen.
Well, we don't hear, say the United States, or even Israel, you don't hear that there's this wave of accident.
Chas v'shalom, we should not know.
You have to understand.
Car accidents, chas v'shalom.
You have to understand.
But even then, how many are there?
But you have to understand the environment that the sanctuary cities are set up. They're set up in a very Mid-Eastern mindset where you had tribal revenge. We still see that today here in the Mideast. The concept of tribal revenge that can last thousands of years until the tribe is satisfied of a wrong that was done to them.
But even then,
That's
the numbers of
this wrong is based on.
to put so many resources.
Okay, that was not the only concept behind the Arei Miklat. The Levim used to live there as well, and was used for other things as well. But to strengthen your question, I would ask, what about the times of Mashiach, when Mashiach will come, and there shouldn't be mistakes when Mashiach will come, and there won't be mistakes, people, because again, there's a reason that there won't be mistakes, because Hashem's the one that plants those mistakes. Rashi says, how could it be that a person kills B'shogeg and he doesn't get his punishment? He should be punished. How can Hashem allow such a thing? So the answer is that could be that the person that was killed by accident, he previously killed someone else. And that is the larger picture we're not aware of. We don't have to also be aware of. Could be we don't understand the reason. But to strengthen your question, in the times of Mashiach, those cities will still exist, despite the fact that there won't be any murder.
And there's still courts.
And there's Shoftim, Hashiva Shoftayach Kevarishona, Veyotzach Kevatchila. And that's a good question. We'll leave it with a question mark. And Be'ezrat Hashem will get to it, Parshas, one of the Parshas where it says, Az Yavdil Moshe Shalosh Arim. And that's the proof that there'll be the rising of the dead, where it says that then Moshe will set aside another 3 cities, and it says it Velashon Atid, in the future. Wait a second, is Moshe Rabbeinu going to come back? What does it mean in the future? He set aside 3 cities within Israel. He's going to set aside in the future 3 cities out of Israel. That is a proof of Techiyat HaMetim. But when Techiyat HaMetim is going to happen, there's not going to be death in the first place. Why does he need to set aside those 3 cities? Very good question. We'll speak about it then. And back to what we're learning here. So we have these 2 answers. We have another answer, and it's a beautiful answer of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says that there's no such a thing that a Yid doesn't have something good within him. Even if he is a murderer, even if you know, and everyone agrees unanimously that he did do this act, and there has to be something good about him. And the fact that the Sanhedrin cannot find something good, that means that they're missing part of the puzzle, and they have to dismiss themselves from the case. So this is, I think it's a strong limud zchus of the Rebbe on Klal Yisrael, especially before the times of Rosh Hashanah. We are about to come to Rosh Hashanah, and we might think, you know what, maybe I'm not worthy of whatever it is, of having a new happy year in Parnassah, having a new happy year in health, having a new happy year in happiness, in simcha. And a person tells himself, you know what, but maybe I'm not worthy. The Rebbe says that in each and every Yid, no matter what, there is a very, very good point and a good part. And yeah, and if you cannot find that good part, so you've got to rethink the case. You've got to dismiss yourself from this case, and someone else has to be the judge. Okay, and we need a l'chaim for that. That's it. It's a vart of a l'chaim.